go early. I've never had this happen before. I don't know what to do. Let's see. Mic check. Yep. LC, can you give me a mic check real quick?
Mic check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yep, looking good there. John?
Check. 1, 2, 3.
Dan, Jeff.
Hello, everybody.
All right.
Oh, we didn't talk to LC about doing a promo.
Oh, that's right. LC, would you mind doing a little promo for the show?
Sure.
Generally, and play with it how you want, but it'd be like, hey, this is LC May with Clyde May's whiskey, or Alabama whiskey, or how do you pronounce the say it again?
Kaneka. So like
Kaneka.
Kaneka.
Okay. And then is Kaneka what your uncle started?
So it's the same brand. It's just we flipped the name. So my uncle started Clyde May's Kaneka Ridge whiskey. And then over the course of time, we rebranded it because it was always about my grandfather and his recipe. But at the time, my uncle kind of, I don't want to say he was overthinking it, but in the world of Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, Elijah Craig, he didn't want to create another brand that was just the name of someone. So that's why he did Clyde May's Kaneka Ridge whiskey. But now it's Clyde May's whiskey made by Kaneka Ridge Distillery.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. So when I'm introducing you, do you want it to be Kaneka Ridge Distillery or do you want it to be Clyde May's?
You can just say Clyde May's because I think that'll be easier for people just because that's, what most people associate us with now.
Yeah, so that's what I assume, but I wanted to make sure there wasn't.
Neither. I mean, they both would have been correct. Either one would be fine. So.
All right, cool. So you something like, hey, this is LC May with Clyde May's Alabama whiskey. You're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast where you never drink alone. Yeah. That's generally what people say, but play with it however you want. And anytime you're ready, just go for it.
Okay. So like right now, or you mean during the, okay. So it's, I introduce myself and I say, you're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast where you never drink alone.
You got it.
Okay. All right. Hi, guys. I'm LC May with Clyde May's Whiskey, and you're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast, where you never drink alone, and you're drinking Clyde May's Whiskey. You're really enjoying yourself.
There it is. That's what I like.
That was great. I was on mute because I'm eating. I'm trying to eat a salad as fast as possible.
Salad.
That was awesome. Thank you, LC.
At least it's not cauliflower crust. At least it's not cauliflower crust pizza this time.
It might. It's a quinoa salad though. That's the. He's still muted. Okay. Are you watching the chat, Solomon? Okay. All right. Cool. All right. LC, any other questions or anything before we get started?
I think I'm good to go, man. You just do what you do, and I'll follow with the flow. So
sounds good. I like it. All right. Let's just do it then. We're gonna start early because we can. So here we go. What, John?
Oh, it is 8:28. Look at that.
Yeah. I've never started this early. Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is Chris Iannetta with Jack Winery and the Colorado Rockies, and this is the We Like Drinking podcast, and you're never drinking alone.
May as well have it all fail right off the bat. Let's try that. All right, there it is. All right, let's try it again. Stop laughing, John.
Hi, this is Chris Iannetta with Jack Winery and the Colorado Rockies, and this is the We Like Drinking podcast, and you're never drinking alone.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
Thank you for joining us for the award-winning We Like Drinking podcast, episode 215. In this episode, we'll be discussing another story from John Get your sleeping glasses on, everybody. Getting all science-y with hangovers, and we're getting into some Alabama-style whiskey with Clyde May's own LC May. So crack open your beers, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking. Solomon, you just get more and more forceful with your drinking every week.
That's what we're about, forcing drinking, right? Wait, no, that's not okay.
You're almost to the point of asking for your, what is it, John, the L37 aluminum space modulator or whatever it was.
That is Marvin the Martian is my spirit animal. I just want to.
The Earth is blocking my view of Venus.
All right. Well, the drinking episode is off to a flying start. So cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 215 of the only 2-time award-winning topical beer and wine and whiskey education podcast focusing on, John Ruyak?
Fun.
We like to have it, and your gang sign F is just leaves something to be desired, John. It really does. So, if you're listening to the show and this is your first time or your 100th, and you're liking what you're listening, consider helping out the show by becoming a Patreon by visiting welikedrinking.com/pledge to find out how you can help us keep the lights on, right, Jeff? I mean,
what, we're going somewhere?
Shut the lights off before you leave.
Is this like Motel 6 where they leave the lights on for you?
That's us, available 24/7 via your favorite podcasting app. And I do want to say a quick hello to Dimitri, who is watching us live. Hey, Dimitri, good to see you.
Oh, nice to see you, Dimitri. Thanks for joining us. Dimitri, are you drinking whiskey though? That's what we really want to know, because let's find out.
Isn't Wednesday hockey night for Dimitri?
I think so.
Be drinking a beer.
And he's got hair like Jeff Solomon. All right. Moving on, we're drinking with some folks tonight, so let's find out who we're drinking with. We've got our usual panel members. We've got our wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hello.
We've got our commercial brewer, John Ruyak.
Cheers.
And I am your host, Jeff Eccles. Now, our guest tonight is the national brand ambassador for Clyde May Alabama whiskey. His grandfather was, in fact, the legend Clyde May himself, who created and perfected the recipe for the whiskey that is now the official state spirit of Alabama. He is now the 3rd generation May to be working with the brand, and he is LC May. Welcome to the show, LC.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be on, talk a little whiskey and a little fun, as you guys put it.
That's right. I mean, my office is filled with the sweet smell of this whiskey so far, so I'm excited about this. But Alabama has a state spirit.
Yes. In fact, Alabama is the only state in the United States with an official state spirit or an alcohol beverage of any kind as an official state beverage. So most, I believe it's like 28 states have adopted a state beverage, and most of the time it's milk or apple cider, something that may be a soda that's local to that state. But Alabama is the only one with an official state spirit, and it's Clyde May's whiskey.
That's awesome, and I am outraged at the state of Colorado. This has got to change. I am leading the charge to get we're going to have some kind of state beer for Colorado, I think.
That is kind of messed up.
It's it, so I mean.
All right. So now, folks, if you're listening, I'm sure your first question is Alabama whiskey, and we'll get to that. But if you want to learn more, if you want to follow Clyde May or LC May on the socials, be sure to check out ClydeMays.com. That's ClydeMays. On Facebook, they're at Clyde Mays Whiskey. Twitter, they're at Clyde Mays, and Instagram at Clyde Mays Whiskey. Did I get all that right?
I believe on Twitter it's Clyde Mays _ at the very end.
Is. I haven't. Yes, you're right. It is Clyde Mays.
Everything else, you nailed it, man. You got it. So, and like you said, find us on our website, ClydeMays.com, and all major social media apps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. A nice website too. Looks very nice. Very well done.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate that.
So now, folks, I'm guessing you're guessing what we're drinking tonight, but let's find it out. Let's yeah, I think I'd like Jeff's idea. So Jeff Solomon.
Yeah. Well,
What-
in my glass right now, I am drinking, we're kind of alluding to the first question that you asked here. I am drinking Clyde Mays Alabama style whiskey, 85 proof. And I'm starting off neat right now because I do want to get into some of those flavors. I was thinking while I'm taking a sip here, LC, could you talk to us about like what it means when we talk about Alabama style whiskey? How is it different from what other folks might be used to?
It's a truly unique whiskey. One of the a question I get all the time is, "Oh, what does it compare to?" And that's very difficult to do when it's truly something unique. What Alabama style means is that it is finished with a hint of apple at the very end of the aging process. So any bottle that says Alabama style, that means it's finished with a hint of apple, and that's not standard across the industry. We have that term trademarked. So Clyde Mays is the only Alabama style whiskey. And the reason that is my grandfather was a moonshiner, never sold a legal bottle in his life. But when he would age moonshine into whiskey to help, finish it and make it smoother, he would add a touch of dried apple at the end of the aging process. And it wasn't to flavor it, it was just to finish it, take some of that spice, some of that burn out of the finish and make it a little bit more mellow. So any product that says Alabama style whiskey is just at the very end of the aging process. It's finished with that touch of apple, and that's what makes it truly unique.
That's really cool. So what's the grain bill on this? This is predominantly corn, right?
Well, yeah. So everything that we carry, except for our rye whiskey, obviously, is a corn dominant product. In fact, that would be a bourbon if we didn't add the hint of apple. So once you add that hint of apple, it breaks away from the bourbon law because you can't add any flavorings. And while it's just a small amount, it's not enough to even be considered a flavored product, and it shouldn't be because it's not a flavored product. It's still can't call it a bourbon, which is why it's an Alabama style whiskey. But to answer your question from a mash bill point of view, for the one you're drinking, that specific product, the original Alabama style, it is 70% corn, 22% rye, and 8% malted barley.
Nice. And I will say that, there is like there is a nice spiciness that I am getting from that rye. But I think it really is like for I know we have a big like sorority girl contingent that listens here, like everybody who's thinking like apples, woo, like they're gonna be drinking candy. It's definitely not that. This is a beautiful, smooth whiskey that just has this nice long finish with like this essence of like these just like dried, baked, spicy apples at the end. Like this is really, LC, this is awesome. This is so cool.
It's like I said, it's truly unlike anything. And I'm glad you said that too, because, I'm hesitant, especially when I do a consumer event, to tell people right off the bat, like, hey, it's finished with a hint of apple, because the first thing they think of is, oh, this is going to be an apple flavored product. And, they picture, there's plenty of brands, I'm sure you can think of some that have an apple flavored product. And so a lot of times I'll, let them drink it first and then tell them what's in it afterwards. That way they don't, have their mind, I don't want to say ruin, but don't want to get the wrong mindset going into, drinking the first sip. And not to say that's a bad thing, because once they taste it, they realize like, oh, this is something different. This is not what I expected at all.
Yeah, this is really good stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, I was a little bit jealous when I saw that you got that one, Jeff. I'm not going to lie. All right, Ruyak.
Okay, so I've got the straight bourbon whiskey, Clyde Mays straight bourbon whiskey, and let me just say, the bottles. I mean, it's not about the bottle per se, the packaging, but the packaging is just killer. It's so freaking classic. It's just beautiful. But I have the straight bourbon whiskey, 92 proof, and boy, I let my wife take a sip, and I was kind of jealous because I saw her smacking her lips. And I've just been sniffing this glass for the last 15 minutes and just, oh my gosh, vanilla, caramel, a little bit of peach maybe. Man, this is just, oh, and then, okay. Yum. That's a little warmer than, and I was a little, I don't want to say nervous, but kind of ready for a little bit more heat in my mouth from this. We had a gentleman from Four Roses on a couple months ago, and theirs is 80 proof, 40% alcohol. This is 92, so obviously a little more warmth. And boy, that it doesn't. I couldn't get any alcohol in the nose, which I thought was really cool. That it wasn't. I didn't get any heat from the aroma, but just the way it fills your mouth with that the way the alcohol evaporates but not burning is really nice. And then there's a little bit of some rye in this mash bill too, I would imagine, correct?
Yes, not as much. It's a higher corn content. It's 78% corn, 12% rye, and 10% malted barley. So obviously what Clyde Mays is most known for is our Alabama style whiskey, and rightfully so. That's how we got started. But when we got started expanding our portfolio, we were faced with the challenge, okay, if we introduce a bourbon, how do we keep it to that same quality and smoothness without adding the hint of apple like my grandfather did? Because even though the hint of apple is what we do to the Alabama style to, follow his recipe, the thing that we do most that pays tribute to him is just a standard of excellence and quality and smoothness and everything that we do. So some of the things we did to the bourbon to keep it smooth and have a nice, long, complete finish is higher corn content, a little bit less rye. We use char 4 barrels, which is the highest char you can use in any bourbon barrel. And we believe, the more you char a barrel, the more the oak wood is going to crystallize. And that crystallization is that natural flavor you get from the barrel. We're not putting vanilla or caramel or peach in the bourbon. It's, natural flavor from the barrel. And it's also non-chill filtered, which we believe allows that flavor to stay in the bottle.
So the liquid is not chilled before it's filtered then?
No, it's if my understanding is correct, in order for something to be non-chill filtered, in other words, for it, to avoid chill filtration, it has to be 90 proof or higher. So anything under 90 proof is automatically chill filtered, but there's other filtration methods you can do once you get above 90 proof. And a lot of people, and this is a topic of conversation, this isn't necessarily fact or fiction. It's all about a matter of opinion, and I'm not on either side of the fence. I just I just know what good bourbon is, and ours is a good bourbon. But a lot of people believe that by avoiding chill filtration, you're keeping natural flavor from the barrel in, because they believe that sometimes chill filtration can kill some of that natural flavor that comes from the barrel.
Yeah, and it's the same with beer. A lot of places filter before they bottle beer, and you're taking flavor components out when you filter stuff. So that just happens. Little more critical with a carbonated beverage, because if you leave yeast in there, you could have bottle bombs. But so I don't. Okay. I had a question, but let's get to what Eccles has too.
Yeah. Well, first, Elsie, are you drinking anything tonight?
I actually was, and then I sat it down by the table over here, and then I sat down and they got to talking to you, but I can grab it in a second. I was drinking the 85 proof, so same thing that, So I was actually, one of the things we'll be introducing this year is a line extension in terms of a new size. So we've never had a mini or a 50 ml in the Clyde Mays lineup, and we're going to be introducing that this year, are some 50 ml minis. So actually we got to see those for the first time today, and they gave us a couple. So that's what I've been drinking out of, is some minis tonight. So
pretend you're on an airplane. You'd be like Dimitri.
Yeah, they're good to travel with. When you travel as much as I do, you gotta have something to help give you a nice break and relax drink while you're flying or trying to relax for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then I am drinking the straight rye whiskey. So this is coming in at 94 proof. So what kind of bill are we looking at with this one?
So what's very interesting about, in fact, and I'm not doing this as a trick question, don't do this, but have you tasted the rye yet, or have you just been getting the nose of it? Have you tasted it yet?
Yeah, the bottle's about half gone. I mean, not today, but
let me ask you, and I do this for a reason, and it's not a trick question. If I were to ask you, for you to tell me what you thought, obviously it's a rye dominant mash bill, it's a rye whiskey. Right?
Mm-hmm.
How much rye do you think is in that mash bill based on flavor components?
It's a spicy dish. So
right.
I would say it's a pretty high rye content in this one, like 80%.
So that's the thing. My favorite thing about this rye whiskey. So obviously rye is a spicy grain. So any rye whiskey is going to have some component of spiciness to it. But the more rye you get, the more spiciness you get. And we actually have a very high rye content. It is 95% rye.
Wow.
And 5% malted barley. And listen, like you said, it carries that spiciness. Let's be clear, it carries the spiciness, but not as much as other rye whiskeys that carry that same mash bill. It's a little bit more mellow, has notes of honeysuckle and a little bit of mint too. Just depending on, your palate, because not everybody gets the same notes and they're not supposed to. But with that higher rye content and to still not be overly spicy, I think that's one of the more unique things about this product. Because like I told you earlier, we pride ourselves on quality and smoothness. No matter what product we make, no matter what proof it is, no matter what the mash bill is, if it's not of our high standard of quality and not ultra smooth, then we're not doing my grandfather justice. So that's number one way we pay tribute to him. And like you said, it's a 94. It's got the high rye content, so it's going to have some spice to it. Period.
Yep.
But
it's got some muscle to it, but it is. I mean, it is a smooth rye. I don't drink a lot of ryes, but it is nice and it is very mellow, and it's warm going down, but it's not like cough. It's not.
Right.
No, it's a really nice one. Like I said, the bottles disappear.
If you had not drank it yet, that's not a bad thing, because sometimes you got to let things open up, get in the nose of it, of course. So I was just wondering, and then you showed me the bottle, and I was like, okay, he's had a glass or two. So
yeah.
And that's a good thing too, because that's the point of the show, right? We got to enjoy good alcohol.
And we have to do prep work.
That's right. And that's the best kind of homework. I wish I would have had more of that back in my day, but that would have
that. All right, cool. So that's what we're drinking. So cheers to everybody. Welcome to the show. Let's get into this. Before we get to the interview, even though I feel like we've already kind of started the interview.
I kind of got ahead of myself there.
No. It was the question that begged to be asked. Jeff had to ask it. There was no way we were going to get 20 minutes into this without asking what Alabama style whiskey was. So,
I would love to actually see an interview where nobody asks you that question.
Believe it or not, I've had one before. Not going to say where or when, but it was more. They ended up talking more about the current state of the industry and less about the product, and and that was fine too, because it ended up being a good conversation. But but obviously when you talk about Clyde Mays, you got to talk about Alabama style.
You have to. So I imagine the tail end. You're like, and by the way, can I talk about this one thing?
I was saying, can I tell you about my grandfather? The guy on the bottle, the guy that's kind of the whole point of all this. Yeah.
Interviews 101. Come on, people. All right, so let's take a little break here and get into wine, beer, or pop culture reference. I'm supposed to be doing it this week, but I forgot to update the show notes, so John is back for a repeat.
Yeah, since I screwed it up so bad last week, or 2 weeks ago, I thought I'd give it another shot. So I'm going to give these guys a term, a wine, beer, or pop culture reference, and they're going to try to guess what it is. So here we go. This week's term is proto. Proto. So usually we go with the guest first. So LC, proto, Proto, wine, beer, or pop culture reference.
We have never gone with the guest first because that's just rude. John.
Why?
You know, honestly, obviously I'm a whiskey guy, but so it's Proto, proto. Is that right?
Correct.
That sounds like some kind of like a hipster craft beer term. I'm going to guess beer here with my guess. That's just a whiskey guy guessing. So you're the professionals here. I would like to hear what you guys think.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain LC must know how to play this game. That was beautiful.
All right, Solomon, since you're chiming in, you're next.
Well,
Proto.
I was gonna say if John's got like a last minute thing, considering he's a brewer by trade, that it's gonna be some sort of like beer thing. And I've done enough home brewing in my life where
Twice?
yeah, 2 or 3 times. Near the tail end of the boil, you add this stuff, and sometimes they have different brand names on it, but sometimes you can add something called proto flock, which is essentially like a fining agent that's going to take all these chunks and chunders out of the wort. Is that it? Yeah, it's a fining agent. Proto is a fighting agent. Either that or it's some Lord of the Rings thing.
That's Frodo, you dummy.
So I'm gonna say beer. I'm gonna say beer.
All right, Eccles, you're up.
All right, I am going to say that proto is a wine term referring to stuff out of Portugal or the Porto region, maybe even specifically a wine. That's what I'm going to go with.
Really? You're going with you guys? You're going. Okay, we got 2 beers and a wine.
Yep.
Who's doing this? I'm doing this.
Mhm.
Proto is in reference to the proto molecule from the Expanse TV show on Prime Video. It's a pop culture reference. Stumped the panel.
Oh my god! Was something?
Oh my
Nothing
God.
on the Sci-Fi Channel is a pop culture reference.
It's on Prime Video. It's
Oh
on-
my God. Okay, next week I'm heads up. Next week it's the guitar player from At the Drive-In.
Okay. All right.
It makes blue stalactites pop out of your nose.
Okay, say the term again.
Proto.
All right, let's do this, LC. I feel like we've already done it, but let's get into it again. Jeff, you kind of started us out with a question. John, do you want to go into anything specific?
Well, I was really kind of curious as to why you choose to go with the higher proof on the bourbon and the rye in particular. What are the reasons for that? I've done some reading on naval strength gin, where there's a lot of botanicals in gin that are absorbed and dissolved in the alcohol per se, in order to carry some more oils and flavors along with it. And also you can soak gunpowder in it and it still ignites, and that's how you know it's naval strength gin. But anyway, why has your distillery decided to go with these higher proofs?
I believe firmly that it's not always just about, obviously there's so many things that weigh into the quality of a bourbon, whether it be mash bill, char, where it's aging, how long it's aging for, all these things. And when it comes to the proofs, I don't think we necessarily seek out high proofs. I think it's just we taste and do whatever we can to produce the best quality product, period. And it just wherever, kind of the ships fall in that direction, that's just where it falls. And I think for that reason, they tend to fall maybe sometimes in the higher proof direction. But it's because we believe it provides a higher quality product.
Excellent.
Awesome answer.
So obviously, Clyde May's whiskey. It's all about Clyde May here with this. And there's, if you visit the website, there's some very cool stories about your grandfather. His time in the war, his time being arrested, doing the illegal distilling. Out of all the stuff, and I'm sure you know all of them, is there one favorite story you have about your grandfather? Maybe one that isn't necessarily part of the legend of the whiskey side, but is there a favorite story you have about your grandfather that you could share with us?
There's a lot of stories, and I have a lot of favorites. I try to find ones that are like, because part of the whiskey industry, you hear a lot of marketing, you hear a lot of stories, and, it's kind of gotten to the point now where there are so many stories, people start to question and they don't want to believe anything anymore. People do their homework, and I go to whiskey shows all the time, and people ask me, how much does this company pay me to pretend to be the grandson of this made up guy? So for that reason, I always like to take it to the next level, because it's like I tell people, when you're a moonshiner, you live a pretty interesting life. You don't have to make anything up.
Right.
You live a pretty interesting life. One story I'll tell, and it's just kind of a more, I don't tell this story a lot, but it's a true story, but it's almost too good to be true. So my grandfather, you kind of alluded to already, he was arrested in the early 1970s for making moonshine. We actually kind of tell that story on the bottle of the rye whiskey, which you have. Yep. His favorite grain in his mash bill a lot of times was rye. So in his possession, they found several 50-pound bags of rye, and they asked him about it in court because that was kind of part of their evidence. And he was like, "Oh, I was going to plant it," and that was a lie. He was using it to make whiskey. But anyway, to kind of make a long story short, when he was arrested, moonshining was a federal crime back then, because it's a form of tax evasion. It's an untaxed alcohol. So when you got arrested for moonshining, you served your time in a federal prison. Well, when you get arrested or you get sentenced, you get some paperwork. I'm just saying why you were tried, why you were sentenced, when you were sentenced, and this paperwork is signed by the prosecuting attorney, the judge, all these people. Well, because it's a federal crime, on the last page, there's a stamp signature from the Attorney General of the United States. And obviously, the Attorney General of the United States does not keep up with every federal crime. It's just a stamp in every local state's office that they stamp the signature on. Well, my grandfather was understandably upset and a little bitter when he found out that he was sentenced to 24 months in prison. He only served 8 months, but he was sentenced to 24 months. And when he was reading his final paperwork before he kind of got sent off, he was reading it, and understandably so, but he was like, screw this guy, kind of calling out the names. And he gets to the Attorney General's name, and he's like, and I hope this guy rots in a cell like I do. And he throws the paperwork down, right? Well, he serves his 8 months, gets out for good behavior. The Attorney General whose stamped signature was on that piece of paper was Attorney John Mitchell, U.S. Attorney, and he got arrested for his involvement in the Watergate scandal. He served his time in the same federal prison my grandfather did.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You can look it up. Google Attorney John Mitchell, and you'll see that he served his time at Maxwell Air Force Base Federal Prison in Montgomery, Alabama.
Wow.
So now you mentioned that's pretty amazing. But you mentioned something in there that this happened in 1970, and
it was 73. It was in the early 70s, but yes, in the early 90s. Yeah.
And it kind of is shocking, I think, to a lot of us that that distilling was illegal until it was pretty recent that you could actually even start this business, wasn't it?
So our brand history is quite unique. So my grandfather never sold a legal bottle in his entire life, and he was a moonshiner. It wasn't like today where you become a moonshiner and then you try to get on the TV show so you can get a name and create a legal brand, right? This is something that literally never even crossed his mind could ever happen. He was just trying to provide for his family. So that's why when people ask me, oh, what would your grandfather think of the brand today? I tell them the brand wouldn't exist because he would still be doing it illegally if he was alive. My uncle, Kenny May, Clyde's son, he began kind of researching it, and he decided to start the brand legally based off of my grandfather's Christmas whiskey recipe, which is that aged whiskey finished with the hints of apple. And in 2001, he started the brand. And at that time, it was still illegal to distill spirits in the state of Alabama. So he tried to get it to be legalized, and they told him no. Alabama's a little bit behind the times in that category, and that's what makes the brand even more, unique, because it was named the official state spirit in 2004. At that time, we could not legally distill the product in the state where it's the official state spirit. And I get that question all the time. Well, how did that happen? And there's no correct answer to why that happened. I believe it happened because people looked more at the man more so than they did the whiskey. My grandfather, World War II, Purple Heart recipient, blue collar, worked hard, provided for his family. I think they looked more into that side of it and kind of named it the official state spirit because of the person more so the whiskey. But legal distillation of spirits and at all didn't become legal in Alabama until 2013. So up until that time, we were making our product elsewhere in Kentucky using my grandfather's recipe. But as soon as they made it legal, we began searching out a city to build a new distillery. And we announced in September of 2016 our intentions to build a distillery. And I said 2016, I meant 2017, excuse me. September 2017, we announced our intentions to build a distillery in Troy, Alabama, which is in southeast Alabama. It's one town over from where my grandfather was actually making moonshine whiskey back in the day. In fact, I live in Troy now. So, I mean, I went to high school in Troy, just to give you an idea of how close it is. And we'll be breaking ground this year, and it's going to be on something like you see on the Bourbon Trail, 78 acres of land. It's going to be a distillery, rick houses, bottling facility, cabins, restaurant, museum, gift shop, tasting room. It's even going to have a little place where you can get married if you want to. So if that's what you're about. So yeah, so we're very excited about that. Our history has kind of been a roller coaster, and I guess that's the only way to do it when you have a moonshiner's past, because my grandfather's life was kind of like a roller coaster too. And it's been a long time coming, but patience is virtue, and our patience paid off. And due to our growth, we're able to build a much bigger and larger facility than we would have been able to do if we would have built one back in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's incredible. Congratulations on that. That is
I appreciate it. Thank
you. Jeff Salomon.
I want to go in the way back machine, LC, because I do have to say this is not the first time that I've had a chance to listen to you on a podcast. I was doing a little bit of research, and I really enjoyed listening to you about this time last year on the Dad's Drinking Bourbon podcast. And the one thing that I was waiting for, I'm like, when are you going to talk about it? And they never did. And so now is my chance, LC. I wanted to know, obviously there's a family connection, right? But you're also a fairly young man. I did want to know, how and when you started to get involved in the business, and where your love of Clyde May's whiskey really came from. But before we get to that, this is so important. What does LC stand for?
LC, my grandfather's name was Lewis Clyde May. He went by his middle name, Clyde, and LC stands for Lewis Clyde May. So he's Lewis Clyde May. I'm Lewis Clyde May.
There you go. All right. And so when you chose to go by LC, it was really to distinguish yourself and say, no, I'm this other guy.
Well, actually, I didn't make that choice. So it's my understanding that when they named me Lewis Clyde, that my parents had not really decided if they were going to call me Clyde or Lewis or Clyde Jr. or whatever they were going to do. I technically wouldn't have been a junior because I was third generation, but I think it got to the point to where the frustrations of not being able to decide led to them just going by my initials, LC, and that's what stuck. So I've been LC since I was a baby, so I didn't really have a choice in the matter. But if people want to call me Lewis or people want to call me Clyde, they can call me whatever they want to. I'm just happy to be associated with a man that carries so much clout and legacy. So
nice.
But to answer your other question that you were talking about, how I got in the business, that's kind of a roller coaster too. I think everything you do in this with this brand has to kind of a roller coaster. But to better understand it, you have to understand that I was born and raised and still live in. I haven't actually even moved to Troy yet. I grew up 2 houses down from where my grandfather lived.
Oh, wow.
And outside of a town, Union Springs, Alabama, middle of nowhere. You hear people talk about, we only have one stoplight. There's not even a stop sign where I live. If you want to go grocery shopping, you need to drive 20 minutes to the Piggly Wiggly. You know what I mean? I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and because of that, when my grandfather died in 1990, before the brand, even a thought of making a legal brand crossed anyone's mind, my dad continued to make moonshine illegally, like my grandfather did. And he did it for a very long time, even after the brand was created legally, because I think he felt like he had an obligation, my grandfather, to continue on this legacy in a different way. So because of that, I've been around this brand both from the illegal point of view and the legal point of view. In fact, when I was a little boy, most little boys grow up and they want to be, a professional baseball player or an astronaut or something. When I grew up, I wanted to be a moonshiner, just like my dad and my grandfather, which really pissed my mom off. But that's, and as Southern as that sounds, it wasn't much about even making the whiskey. It was more about, you hear these stories about this man and you're named after this man, and how do you carry on this legacy? And I guess I felt like my dad did and felt like I had to do it that way. And for that reason, I always felt like I had a love for, my love has always been stronger for my grandfather than it is for the whiskey. And that's how it'll always be. And that's how it should be. But I didn't have necessarily the intention of getting involved with the brand, like the legal brand, Clyde May's Whiskey. I was in college, and I always wanted to be a part of it somehow, but kind of the way I saw it is like, hey, I'm a 21-year-old kid. I'm almost out of college here in a year. What are these guys going to do with me? I don't have anything to bring to the value. I'm not an experienced master distiller. I'm not this, I'm not that. And so really, I didn't think, and that's just my selling myself short, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. But the people who helped orchestrate and help grow this brand like it's grown really believed in me and believed in what I could do. And because at the end of the day, I just want people to know who my grandfather was as both a whiskey maker and a person. And that's really what drives me and gets me going in everything that I do. So that's how I really got started in the business. But, once upon a time, I was content on growing up and being a moonshiner, not just a moonshiner. I was going to have a day job too, but probably, something blue collar, of course, like my father and my grandfather. But no matter what, I don't think I could see myself going in any other direction except a direction that involves whiskey, rather that be illegally or legally. I just think I chose legally because I don't look as good in handcuffs. So.
Orange is not your color.
Orange is not my color. I mean, and this is the real, like I was talking about my grandfather. My grandfather had 8 children, 4 sons, 4 daughters. All 4 of his sons at one point in their life were arrested for a whiskey related charge as well. So, so that's one family tradition I hope I break, but I hope I
I was just going to say, do you feel a need to go just do something just to get that notch?
Well, that would still break the tradition if I went to prison for anything other than moonshining. And that would break the tradition. I just can't go in a bar and break somebody's nose and be like, yeah, family tradition. It had to be something moonshining related, but I don't feel the need to do that. I think the way I'm doing is the good way to do it. The way that where my mom can be a little bit more proud of and carry on that other legacy and tradition. So
I gotta say, I love the connection that you have with your grandfather. I think a lot of us, I don't, I too, I had a very strong connection to my grandfather. One of my favorite people that's ever walked the earth. So I love seeing the passion and the love that you have for your grandfather coming through when you're talking about him and the whiskey and the legacy that he's created. So Jeff, I just wanted to say that for no reason. But Jeff, I think you had another question you were going to follow up.
Well, I was wondering, kind of piggybacking off of that, right? So you've got this fork in the road and you're saying, you know what, here's this established brand and I'm gonna go this legal route. And I love how very much when we talk about this brand, we're talking about, the kind of like this outlaw spirit of your grandfather and things like that. But I also kind of wonder, now that you are deeply entrenched in the legal distillation game, is there a different type of relationship that you have with like a modern day moonshiner today?
Yes and no, because when I say I live in the middle of nowhere in rural Alabama, moonshining still exists. I mean, and I don't have necessarily a fact sheet to prove this, but when my grandfather was starting, when my uncle was starting this brand based off my grandfather's recipe, when he was doing his homework for marketing purposes, he was told that in the early 1970s, around the time my grandfather got arrested, the county that I live in had the highest concentration of moonshiners in the United States.
Nice.
These people are doing it to make a living. A lot of people associate moonshiners with prohibition. A lot of people associate moonshiners with people who just drink all day and sleep and make moonshine all night and whatever. Every moonshiner I've ever known in my life, whether it be a family member or not, still know some, and they're hardworking, honest, just good people. These people are not, moonshining is not their only source of income. It's just that it's an extra source of income to provide a more comfortable life for their family in an area that doesn't have a whole lot to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I kind of have a love-hate relationship, and I don't say it in a negative way. Look, everyone has a dream, everyone has a passion, and I encourage everyone to pursue it. But I think that with various reality shows and things like that, people have kind of painted a different picture of moonshining, and it's not the picture that I grew up around and was painted myself. And you're talking to someone who, when he was 10 years old, his dad would throw 50-pound bags of rye on his shoulder and say, carry that to the still. So, I've been around it. I've seen it. I've done it. And while I respect what people are doing, I think that to a certain degree that it's painting a picture that's not the same picture that I've painted and seen for myself.
If I might say, those shows make them look kind of clownish. It doesn't paint them in a very nice light.
It's the funny thing about reality television is like the term reality is kind of an oxymoron when you use it in that sense. It's because where I'm from, I mean, I live in an area where there is nothing but forest and woods and trees and stuff. But I promise you, there's not a place in the county I live in where somebody could put a still and then put a camera on it, and then someone not know exactly where that still is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that tree.
So, exactly, and that's real, you know. But and I agree to that. You know, it's almost kind of like, and that's the kind of the painted picture I'm talking about, where people, you know, they kind of see it almost more as a joke. Where I always looked at it as an art, you know, moonshining. Sure, there's an exception to every rule. You know, there's plenty of moonshiners who have given other moonshiners a bad rap because they didn't make high quality product. And the moonshine I grew up around, man, I mean, it was, I know you got to keep one eye on the still and one eye looking over your shoulder for the law. But at the end of the day, is my grandfather started this trend in my family. When you're selling something to someone else, your reputation is forever attached to what you sold them. So if you sell them a batch that didn't meet the standard of your last batch, then in a way that was dishonest to them. And my grandfather was, for lack of a better term, a freak about it. You know, he would taste something, and if it didn't meet his standard, he would pour it out. And other moonshiners were like, "You idiot, that's money. Somebody will drink it, right?" And to him, he said, "I don't care if they'll drink it. You know, this is about my reputation and me being a man of my word. And if I promise somebody something, I'm going to deliver." And I think now moonshining is turned into kind of a joke, like, "Hey, he's wearing, you know, overalls and barefooted, you know, making a, you know, moonshine." But I know it's just, and that's fine. You know, do what you do. If, you know, you feel like that's what makes you who you are, do it. But that's just not the moonshining I grew up around.
So I really want to talk a little bit more about the commercial product, but just, and it's my own ignorance, and I'm sorry. You know, when I think of moonshining, I think, you know, moonshine, I think of white lightning. You know, so obviously this is what your grandfather did, was something that's different, developing this Alabama whiskey recipe than what my perception of that is.
So you're actually not wrong. Your perception is not wrong. A good, I would estimate 95% of what my grandfather sold was unaged white lightning. It wasn't charred. It was clear white lightning moonshine. It was the recipe we take today with the Alabama style, where that all got its start. The reason why I referred to it earlier, I believe, when I said my uncle used my grandfather's Christmas recipe. So my grandfather was able to get one charred oak barrel from a source he had, one barrel at a time. You know, he's doing it illegally. He doesn't have the luxury of having 10, 15 barrels. It was one barrel at a time. And he would age it starting in January, and then he would pull it around Christmas. So it was only aging for about a year, which is one reason why he used an oven-dried apple, because the apple aspect helped with the finish, but the oven-dried aspect helped with the color and the overall profile of the product. And he started doing that, and he actually started giving it away to his best customers as a gift. And then it got so popular that he started doing it more so as a product. And people started calling it his Christmas whiskey, to the point to where even if he sold some in April, people still said, "Hey, let me get some of your Christmas whiskey." And that's where that's the recipe we took to create this brand and build it into what it is today. Is because, you know, while what he was doing with his moonshine, he was doing a lot to stand out and be unique. You know, the fact that he was an illegal moonshiner, taking the time to actually age into something that was certainly unheard of at the time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, excellent. Guys, quickly, if you have one last questions for LC. Jeff.
Well, I saw that you had this amazing list of recipes on your website as well. And, you know, Jeff mentioned earlier, the website's fantastic. And so, you know, LC, I'm not sure if you're that familiar with our show, but one of the things I really like to do is I like to tell people how to run their businesses. And so
there you go.
Check this out. So I'm really enjoying this Clyde Mays Alabama style 85 proof whiskey right now. I started neat, and now I'm going on the rocks, and I happen to have like a stockpile of, I don't know if you've ever seen this before. This is the Lagunitas hop water. Have you ever seen that?
I have seen it. To be completely honest, I don't remember where I have seen this before, but I've seen that bottle before somewhere.
Yeah, so this is essentially it's a hoppy sparkling beverage with no alcohol in it. And as much as I hate soda, I love this stuff and I can't drink enough of it. Like it's wonderful. And I was just thinking about, again with the Alabama style whiskey, people might get thrown off when they're thinking about apples, like it's going to be like sweet or anything like that. And it's not, it's like beautiful and it's savory and it's smooth, right? And then I was thinking about the savory aspect of this hoppy water right here. And then I was thinking about NBA legend, Portland Trailblazer, Clyde Drexler from the early 1990s. And so what I'm going to do right now live is I'm going to mix the Clyde Mays Alabama style whiskey with the hop water. And what I have now, I'm going to call it the Glide because this is Clyde with hops.
So first of all, you'll have to tell me how it tastes because my marketing brain is churning here.
So here's what it is. I started thinking about it because we had our friend from Four Roses Bourbon on a couple months back, and he talked about mixing his bourbon with like with a margarita mix, and he called it a Rosarita. And honestly, this is just what I envisioned it would be. It's a savory margarita. So like, I think the problem that a lot of people have with margaritas is that it's cloyingly sweet and that it's, a lot of times it's shitty tequila. But you take like this beautiful, whether it's a nice bourbon or a beautiful Alabama style whiskey like this, and then you're adding like this savory, hoppy, sparkling water. I'm the greatest person ever. I'm going to let you put that on the website for free. It's called the Glide. I love this.
See, we're going to work on the name here. Have you ever heard of the term a happy accident? You may have landed on it because I do believe it mentions it very briefly on the website, but not enough to where it would have probably, let a light bulb off in your brain. So the road that I live on and the road my grandfather lived on is called Rabbit Road. So the fact that you're doing something with hop and I think we can get really creative here. We don't even have to do, Rabbit Road hop with, I'm just saying my marketing brain's churning here, and you may have started a revolution here, man. You may have started the new rage.
Just remember who to thank later.
You'll get full credit, man. Full credit.
Well, that just happened. John Riak, do you have a quick question?
You know what? That I'm pretty questioned out, but I did add a couple of drops of water, just like 3 drops of water to like I had one finger in there, and it went from it really some sherry notes on the nose. Was the flavor profiles are pretty still much the same, but the nose was really different. I was digging it.
All right, Elsie, we're going way long in the interview, but I do have one very, very important question I have to ask.
Okay.
So Elsie, what is more important in your life? Clyde Mays whiskey or Alabama Crimson Tide football?
Listen, I grew up as diehard Alabama as you could be. I graduated from the University of Alabama. I worked with the football program and the athletic department as a camera operator while I was there. My love for Alabama runs deep, but no matter how deep it runs, my love for Clyde May will always run a lot deeper. And if I have to wear an Auburn shirt and scream "War Eagle," it means that a person drink one sip of Clyde Mays, you better believe I'll do it. So, but I will say this. Sometimes you can combine the two. So, I'll end this by saying roll Clyde.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that. That's a perfect way to end the interview. All right, Elsie, thank you so much. We ran so long on that.
Oh no. Well, sometimes I run my mouth a lot talking about, whiskey. So I appreciate this. Listen, you know.
And we like to run our mouths too. It's been known to happen. So if you got to take off, we totally get it. But we're getting into the rest of the show, and we'd love to have you stick around.
I'll stick around, man. Let's hang out. We're having a good
Yeah.
yeah.
Just listeners, it's going to be a long episode, so just buckle up because we're getting into
because I'm putting it down.
News, where we discuss interesting, noteworthy, or sometimes some pretty stupid things. Yeah, I mean, just if you're drinking whiskey, just know the rambling's going to start, and it's going to be a long episode. I mean, that's just how it's going to go. Okay. Oh, Jeff Solomon. Okay, so guy, panel member. Liquor before beer.
You're in the clear.
Okay. Beer before liquor.
Never been sicker.
Never been sicker. I mean, these are words that we all have lived by for so long. And they're oh so accurate, right? Wrong. So once again, kudos to the science community for getting funding to do these experiments. I mean, it just always amazes me that you guys get funded for this stuff. But there was some scientists that set out to prove if drinking wine before beer or beer before wine, which would give you a worse hangover.
Why are you trying to throw wine in the whole thing?
Isn't it
beer before liquor? It's about liquor and beer.
Okay, I know that, but they're experimenting.
Okay, wine guy, quit trying to get us on your agenda.
So this group of scientists, they grabbed, I have to find it because
38 people?
They grabbed 90 people.
90 people.
I mean, who wouldn't sign up for this experiment? I mean, come on.
I would have signed up.
Absolutely. Who are obviously college students, aged between 19 and 40 years old, which we'll get into that in a second.
Wait, 19-year-olds?
Yes, 19-year-olds.
It was Germany. They're allowed to do that there.
To 40.
Okay, I didn't get my undergraduate degree until I was 38. So, okay, come on.
But would you sign up for that? Okay, anyway. So 31 of the people would drink beer until their BAC, their breath alcohol content was 0.05%. And then they would sip wine until they were 0.11%. Another handful would do the reverse. And another handful would do just one drink the whole time. And then they drank, and then they answered a survey about how drunk they were, how hungover they were the next day. And then they came back a couple weeks later and they reversed it, and everybody did it in reverse. And lo and behold, they come to find out that it didn't make a difference. They were all hungover to the same level. Except for the people that drank the same thing the whole time. They seemed to vomit and be hungover a little bit worse than the rest of the group.
I noticed where they made the notation that the girls tended to vomit more than the guys.
Maybe they should get some funding to do some more science experimentation on that. But Jeff, I know you're just itching to get into this, so I'm going to skip you, and I'm going to go to John and get your thoughts on this first.
It just reminds me that some dude got like $25,000 or $50,000 to create a motorized robot squirrel to see if a rattlesnake would bite a motorized robot squirrel. I think, just getting the funding to do some of these things just seems, hey, I've got an idea. Let's remember that thing that we talked about when we were in college, and let's go prove it or disprove it or whatever. And yeah, we shouldn't have any problem getting a control group or getting a cohort to do this stuff. I don't know. I'm a little bit torn about this. I mean, I'm glad that they kind of disproved it, and I never really believed it anyway, right? I mean, everybody's made that mistake and mixed and all that other stuff, but I don't know. I guess I'm all over the place on this, but
yeah, you are.
I don't want to. I didn't mind wasting my time reading it. I'm sorry that other people wasted their time doing it. There you go.
I'm sorry you wasted everybody's time with
I'm
that.
talking about it, right? Yeah.
All right, so
So look, here's the issue. Whoever set up this experiment, like, totally disregarded the spirit of why this expression exists, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, the way that they set it up was they said, regardless of which one you started with, you drink until you're 0.05 and then you finish until you're 0.11 with the other. But like, the reason why they say liquor before beer, you're in the clear, is because you're look, here's the thing. If I'm drinking a beer all night that's mostly made of water, and then all of a sudden I go, oh, I'm fine, and then I just start taking a bunch of shots, I'm taking a whole bunch more alcohol a whole bunch more quickly when I already have alcohol in my system. That's why you don't finish with shots. Of course, alcohol is alcohol, and alcohol will affect you the same, but it's about the concentration of the alcohol within it. And nobody drinks in a controlled setting like this where, you know, oh, I've gone up to 0.05, so I'm good to go another 0.06 with this other spirit. Like, I guess that's the thing that really kills me, is like, they're discounting why that expression exists, right?
correct.
If you've been pounding shots all night and then you have one extra beer to finish the night, it's not a big difference from where you were before you started the beer. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think this is garbage. But I will say this. Look, I will say this. Look, John, to anybody that is doing this whole pushback, like, I can't believe they're doing this research and who got funding for this. At the end of the day, they did science. And at the end of the day, they got an answer to a question. It wasn't the question that they really should have been trying to answer because they set it up wrong, but they still got results. And these are things that pile up. Like, I'm never going to push back against any sort of experiment. Like, even if you have shrimps running on treadmills, you know, and just kind of looking at that, like, you know, there's something where it was like one aspect of an experiment was blown way out of proportion, you know, like picked up by whatever mass media outlet and bastardized. Like, you know, we go to the moon to see what the hell is there. And then we have more questions when we get there. And that's what I'm saying. Let's drink until we end up on the moon, is what I'm trying to, I'm trying to say.
All right. Can I say that, and I don't know, 0.05 and 0.11 seem, or 0.05 and 0.011 seem kind of low.
It wasn't 0.011. It was 0.11.
Okay.
You were beyond legally drunk.
Well, sure, but these people weren't driving. They were in a lab setting.
And if you went from 0.05 to 0.011, that means that, like, you stopped drinking.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Jeff. I think, and there's no way to do a proper controlled test on what you're looking for here, but it'd be more to watch the behavior of people when they drink liquor and then they drink beer, right?
I think what you have to do is, like, not all science has to be a controlled experiment.
Right.
I think this is the reason why you do surveys and sampling, you know. That's really where we need to go from, you know.
Well, the other thing is, it wasn't natural. I mean, it was purely clinical, right? But it wasn't people interacting in ways that, so I you know, you're looking for the physical responses to these things, and, you know, frankly, I mean, with as many people as they had in there, what, 90 you said? I thought I saw a control group that was like 38, where maybe the control group was 38 that drank one thing, be it beer or
That could
wine.
be.
But everybody we know metabolizes it differently.
Right.
So
I did want to say this. Our friend Michael O. Mahoney is watching right now, and
what's up, Homo?
He's been watching for a while, and he dropped a great Chris Stapleton joke earlier in the chat that just went straight over my head. Apparently, he has a song called Tennessee Whiskey, and so there's something about that. But he was saying like structured drinking. What the hell?
Well, I guess that's what I was trying to say, but he said it way better than me. He should be on the show next week.
Oh my God, structured drinking. I just some brain cells just died in my head. Homo. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Good discussion on that. We still got a lot to go, and we're burning time. So, if you haven't, I'm sure quite a few of you listen to the We Like Drinking podcast. As part of it, you've heard us talk a lot about.
Hey, hold up. We're not going to talk about how Elsie's connection like shorted out like halfway through that segment. Sorry, everybody. Elsie, I hope he can get back on, but you know, his face was popping up and then falling apart for the last like 5-10 minutes.
It was pretty interesting to watch. Yeah. So
I just want to say now, Elsie, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope you get back in. I think maybe he's stealing my recipe. It's a really good one.
I think he hung up and is on with the marketing department right now. They're getting the patent on it right now before you
get Heineken on the line.
So if you listen to our show, there's a good chance you probably listened to the Wine 25 podcast starring Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis. And we just want to pour a little out. Last week was the Wine 25's farewell performance. They have left the podcasting space. Fear not, though. Both of them are continuing on in other aspects of the industry. But it was sad to see them go. I will miss those ladies, but look for them in other avenues soon.
We love you, gals, and we're going to miss you so much. And I know you're doing other stuff, but it's just not the same. I feel like a little piece of me is gone.
But
I don't know who.
Bang though. That was.
Yeah, it was a great episode. It was a great episode.
What?
All right.
Every time you go.
So cheers, ladies.
You take a piece of me with you.
Jeff Solomon.
Yeah.
Take us into our next segment.
Bo. Bodie Bo. John Ruyek's got a story.
Actually, John, can it wait a week?
Sure.
Okay. we don't have time for a John story because we've got to get an update on
pew 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 Patreon challenge update.
Yeah, we didn't even get into it during the show, Patreons, but we are so sorry that last week's episode did not happen. Jeff Solomon was like on his deathbed with the flu, and I just couldn't do it. So we hope you enjoyed the Stub Garage Honky Tonk Man Smashed guitar after party.
Somebody started threatening that they were going to bring a veggie tray to my house. I think it was Lori Budd. How dare you?
So Patreon challenge update. You may remember the month of February, we were trying to get to 20 Patreons total for the show. If we are able to get to the 20 Patreons by February 27th, we will have off the cuff, all questions asked, no question unanswered episode of the podcast in March. We started the month at 18 Patreons. Then we lost one. We got down to 17. Then we got one back. We were at 18. In the last 2 weeks, we have added, drum roll, 3 new Patreons. We are at 21 Patreons as of February 20th of 2019. So right now we have hit the goal for the month of March, but there is 1 week to go and some Patreons may drop out. We're all Patreons. We may drop out because we don't want that episode to happen. So don't wait. If you're considering doing it, if you're just going to see if we needed that last push, don't wait. Join us on the Patreon bandwagon quickly. Guys, any thoughts?
Well, just thank you for those folks that have decided to join in with the group. That's really super cool.
Let's talk about them for a second.
Well, yeah, we can afford coasters now.
So we do want to welcome our 3 new Patreons this week. We have Annette R. and Jim M. are coming at $10 a month Patreons. And Mark B. has signed up for the $3 a month bonus. So thank you so much to all those people. I've already started reaching out to them. 2 of them are getting shirts. They've got coasters, stickers, all that good stuff is coming their way. So thank you all. And we look forward to seeing how high we can get by next week.
And Mark, he's like our first $3 person.
Is he?
I think so.
All right. Excellent.
Sure. No one's ever going to double check that.
But all of them have already become active in the tavern. So that's been a lot of fun to see. But oh my goodness, we're running way late. So I'm sorry. I got to hit the flashing lights and call.
Last call.
Last call.
That's right. Last call. Time to clean house and lock the doors. So you know what we do here, folks? We're looking for your help with your phones. So follow us on the social outlets, on Twitter as We Like Drinking 1. That's the number 1. On Instagram and Facebook at We Like Drinking, or sign up for our private Facebook group, The Tavern, by visiting welikedrinking.com/tavern. One last time, if you're looking to follow LC and the trails of Clyde Mays Whiskey, you can find them at clydemays.com, on Facebook at Clyde Mays Whiskey, on Twitter at Clyde Mays _ and Instagram at Clyde Mays Whiskey.
Here's what you do. Go to all those platforms. Just go to the search engine and hit up Clyde Mays, and you'll find it.
Go to Clyde Mays Whiskey and click on all the links to their social media. That's the easiest way to do it.
By the way, and go to their website and find out where local bars and restaurants and bottle shops are carrying their stuff. I realize there's one right down the street, so I'm stoked.
Nice. Jeff Solomon, if the people have an opinion about the show, how can they let us know about it?
Well, they can start by me scrolling down. You can search up our show on Apple Podcasts and leave a big fat 5-star review. And visit welikedrinking.com/pledge to find. Wait, I kind of rolled into the other thing. Huh?
You're good. You don't have to read it. It's just kind of you should know it by now, I think.
I should, but this
you're pulling a John.
This new savory margarita that I invented is really good. So hit us up on Apple Podcasts, leave a big fat 5-star review, and actually, type something too. We love reading that stuff. And also you can visit us at welikedrinking.com/pledge to find out more information about becoming a patron of the show to help us from having to shut down every week. It's a surprise. Are we going to be here next week? Who knows? We missed last week for the first time ever. That was crazy.
That was crazy. You can also find the show notes to this episode with all the links to the stories or mentions we had at welikedrinking.com/episodes. All right. It has been a long one, folks, but it has been a worthwhile adventure. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed LC talking about Clyde and the Clyde Mays Whiskey. But it is the time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
Well, I didn't get to tell my story, but yeah, just don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy, Jeff Solomon.
Stop the music. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. I don't even know if that's how it goes.
Well, at least you got the melody right this time.
Oh, I did. Okay.
The notes are all wrong, but at least the intervals are good.
Bring the music back.
And I know we lost him, but I just want to throw a huge shout out and thank you to LC for joining us out in New York City.
New York City.
Jeff Solomon, where he's having some
Eating paste picante sauce in New York City.
Where he's having some meetings to expand and talk about how they can continue the growth of Clyde Mays whiskey. It was great having you on the show. It was great getting to hear your stories, and we truly appreciate you joining us. And with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast,
where you'll never drink alone.
What up?
An hour and 14 minutes.
What's that?
An hour and 14 minutes.
Yep, push it. We pushed right up against the edge there. Oh my God, Omo, structured drinking. All right, viewers, thank you so much. It was great seeing you. Hi, Jeff McKinney.
Oh, hey, Jeff
Hi,
McKinney.
Jeff
I just
McKinney.
remembered. Yeah.
Bye, Jeff McKinney.
Later.